Daniel, who is on the call with us, Lauren, is a data scientist with Facebook. And I have in mind, if we run into a severe hurdle or obstacle, that will beg for his assistance. I now only have 22 minutes to make sure you can set up a virtual environment on your computer, and I know that you can. So the first thing that Lauren's done is she's opened Command Prompt, and we're going to have her follow those same steps that I just did.
Lauren, can you make it bigger? Can you make your Command Prompt bigger so we can see it?
Now, let's see whether Lauren has installed Python. I suspect not, but I also know that she'll be able to. Can you type where Python?
Where space Python? Ah,
Happy day! This is wonderful news.
so you've successfully installed Python and you have it in your Windows path. Okay, good.
You might want to just check the Python version too.
Just
What's that, Dan?
You might want to check the version as well.
Oh yeah, check Python version. So Python
310.
space hyphen version.
No, it says 310.
Great.
All right, and I booted Craig Futterman. I want him to come back, so I'm going to do that now.
So in my experience, if you haven't added Python correctly to your Windows path, when you type a command like where Python or Python hyphen version, it chokes and says Windows doesn't recognize this command because it doesn't know where to look for Python because you didn't add it to the path yet.
Mine says could not find files for the given patterns.
Could not find
But command could not find files for the given patterns. And I don't have, like, I have C users Espera, so I don't have C users. I know, yes, I have the same. Sorry.
Right,
Yeah.
so that means that if it says that, it means you haven't installed it into your Windows path correctly yet.
Okay. How do I do that?
You got to go. I'll take a lift home. Love you. Bye. All right. So
she needs
I was
help.
just going to show how to add it to the path. If,
perfect.
it's
Thank you,
not in
Lauren.
there. So if you type environment down here and then click on edit the system environment variables, you have to have administrative rights with your children.
Oh no.
But Craig, we are recording this. I will make sure, am I recording? Yes, it is recording. Yes. I will make sure that you get access to this, and I can help you if you need the right verbiage for the help desk to get what you need installed.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And I apologize for accidentally. I apologize for accidentally getting myself kicked out of Teams.
I was too ambitious thinking I could get. I was too ambitious to think I could get everybody installed and environment set up at the same time. But
well,
we are going to do some
installed.
of it. Yes. All right. Are you following this, Sophia? You also may not be able to do this without admin privilege.
No, I am there. I have the OneDrive. Okay. Yes, but now what do I do?
So you need to edit path to include your Python, the directory with Python installation.
So if Python isn't listed at all, mine wasn't earlier. I did new, and then typed Python here, and then put the location.
How do you know the location? I don't remember the location.
You have to use Windows Explorer to find it.
Can I browse files?
Yep, you can do that. Yep.
One thing that is important is it should be on the same drive as where you're saving your virtual environment. So if you plan to create a virtual environment on C, your hard drive, then when you're installing Python, you want to install it on your C drive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm impressed Windows users can get anything done.
Well, so we're 42 minutes in, Hiroki, and it's possible.
I don't know. My computer came with Python.
Alan, you
Lucky
bring
you.
up an excellent point. There's a way to request tickets online. Is that right?
Yes, I know
Yes,
that.
using my
I did not
IT.
know that. That's very simple and straightforward. I'm embarrassed I didn't know.
Yeah, on the SharePoint page under, you just search my IT, MYIT, and you can create, you have to get a Cerner Care login, but once you do that, you can look at all of your IT requests that you've done in the past, and you can create one, and then within a half an hour, they send you a response saying, okay, we're working on this, you know, how, you know, we'll get a hold of you or whatever.
In this
I'm going to add that to my README.
Yeah, it's particularly helpful if you need to say, I want admin permission to do this. You can copy and paste from the instructions what you want to do. So the person that has admin permissions doesn't get a ticket that just says, user wants a thing, and they have to call you
Okay,
up to
that's
say,
amazing.
what thing did you want?
So I will add that to my README and all of the READMEs that go into all of my repos for all of my virtual environments, Daniel. Great. Lauren, I would like to go ahead. Can you show where you're going to save your virtual environment in Windows Explorer?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So you have an empty folder on your C drive. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's that step, create directory on C drive, that'll allow you to set up a virtual environment. You already have command prompt open.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll change in command prompt to the directory for that folder. The command and command prompt for that is cd space, and you can paste the directory name from Windows Explorer.
In the old days, that used to be called the DOS prompt.
Yes.
Lauren, you did
Jim
an
and I were
unnecessary. You did an unnecessary step, Lauren, because you're already in C drive. You see,
Okay.
the 6th line down says C:users. So you don't need to change
Okay.
from Q to C. So you're already
Okay.
in the C drive, and so you just need to do CD, which stands for change directory space, and then that path.
Okay.
You got CD
Hiroki,
twice.
is this now relevant to Mac users, or still not? We're far from being relevant to Mac users still.
Yeah, yes and no, except the Mac makes it easier to set your paths.
Okay.
So if I had so something like Conda or virtual environment, you end up rewriting some of your where things are kept.
Okay.
If you're using a plain Macintosh, user local lib, user local bin, user bin are almost always by default available. So anything installed in there is findable. It makes more sense once you've played with paths once or twice. I think Windows just makes it a little bit cumbersome.
That seems correct. All right. So, and speaking of which, Lauren's getting a syntax error.
Yeah, I think the issue here is that when we were checking the version of Python, we actually opened up Python itself, so we're no longer in the DOS prompt.
If you look at the shape of the prompt, it's changed. Okay, yeah. See how it looks? It says C:/users, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is the shell prompt, and then what you had before was, yeah.
If you ever do that
right.
and need to get back, you can just type exit, open paren, close paren, and it'll get you back to your command prompt.
Okay.
This reminds me of 10th grade biology class when John Deegan broke the 4th beaker, and Mr. Henry said, "How many brains?" Anyway, we'll keep on going. The next is, you've now changed to the directory that we're going to use, and we want to create the virtual environment. Lauren's going to do that right now with this next step. It says Python space -m. Amy, who this should finally be relevant in the last 13 minutes. I think we're getting to a point where maybe we can move forward with where you're at too. Daniel's going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, just for a little bit of explanation, Python-M is basically executing a module within Python. So Kenny mentioned earlier that modules are things that we can download that other people have written. In this case, VENV is something that comes packaged with Python because it's commonly used. But this is just saying, use this module and do what it does. And in this case, it creates a virtual environment. But that's a more general, the Python-M is a more general technique.
Now, once you create that virtual environment, does it stay created, or do you have to do that each time you restart your computer, for instance, or you?
I actually, I've never created that virtual. Okay, I've never created that virtual environment without also activating it. So I'm glad that Daniel can weigh in on that.
Yeah.
Craig, were you able to create a virtual environment?
No, I kept, when I got there, it said I needed administrative access.
Okay, sorry about that. Sophia, were you able to add Python to Path?
No, I cannot find where I put it.
Okay. I'm so ambitious that we're actually going to pause. I'm going to have Lauren unshare her screen, and we're going to get Sophia to add Python to Path. That's how ambitious I feel right now.
I think you only have 11 minutes. And
why are you doing this?
You create a requirements text. You create the batch file.
All right, I lied.
I
Yeah,
will
Jim.
turn it over to Dan to tell us how to do that.
Well, so let's keep Lauren. Well,
all right, Lauren.
Sophia, you and I will connect right after this meeting. We'll make it happen. And Lauren, we're going to finish setting up the virtual environment for you. So you've created one. We need to activate it. The next step after creating the virtual environment is this line of code that ends in activate.bat. I actually don't know what that does. So while Lauren copies that over, I'd ask Daniel to shower us with knowledge if he can.
So, well, I think one thing to point out actually, just before she runs it, is it's going to be a lot easier if you use a relative path instead of an absolute path.
Okay.
So right here, you're specifying it from C, but you can actually, because you're already in environments.env, you can just do scripts/activate. Well, hold on. Can you type dir where you are to see the list of folders? So I think, so is there a, so environments in, is there a, I'm wondering where your virtual environment was created. Can you type cd-venv?
What was it?
venv. I'm wondering.
As in virtual environment, VENV.
V is in Victor. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know where it created the virtual environment on line. There are no line numbers. Hold on, I'm just gonna try it on my computer quickly. So Kenny, are you going to be sad if I go a little bit off, like change the script a little bit?
Yeah, that's what, no, I'd prefer that rather than.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So there's a utility module called virtual env, which makes this a little bit easier. So I'm going to send a few lines to the command or to the chat, and you can run those. It'll be easier to do that than to spell them out to you. Oh, I can't send chats. I guess I'm a guest.
Send it to me. Oh, that's too bad. I can send a chat if you send me an email.
I sent you an email. But so, okay, so type pip, PIP. So pip is the Python package manager, and pip install, pip space install, space virtual env. and then run
So
that.
that's a
Hit
that's a
return.
Python package that we're installing.
Okay, if you hit up to go back to that same command again, but now go to the beginning of it and type python-m. So because pip is not, you could add pip to your path like you added Python to your path, but we haven't. And so now we're just going to use Python to do pip. So run that. It's worryingly silent. Okay, now try Python-m.
Wait a minute, isn't it cranking?
No, it went to the next terminal line. Space virtual env space dot venv, and the dot is just like a, I mean, this is purely, we're just choosing what to name it, but the dot is just, it tells us that it's a system file that we don't, or I mean a system folder. Try running that. It's very strange that nothing is sending any output. Can you type dir and see if anything
And
is
it's not
changed?
giving any even errors or anything.
Yeah.
I'm taking over because in the last 7 or now 6 minutes, I'm confident that I can show these steps just so people see how they work.
Okay.
Daniel, I'm going to start, I'll go through the documentation you sent and I'll update my README file. But I do think it's useful to have a saved recording on how to set up these steps. And I'll just do that on my screen. So some of you already may have done some of this. Lauren, Sophia, both of you IO connecting to later to figure out what the holdups are, and the same for you, Craig. I'm going to change the directory to this new path that I just set up that includes this empty folder called 7env, because at the time I still had 7 minutes. And I now want to activate that virtual environment using this line of code, which is not the flexible line of code that Daniel was talking about, because it labels the actual the exact file, or it must be in C drive. For some reason, Lauren's, when she ran this line, it ran very quickly and did not put her in a virtual environment. What we should see is that the path will say parentheses env close parentheses, and that way I'll know I'm in the virtual environment when I activate it. That usually does take a couple seconds, but I'm still outrageously confident that I'll get through the rest of these steps in the next 4 minutes.
You never put in the command to activate it.
I didn't so I'll see in, I'm now in, it should have set up the virtual environment. If I go to that in the Windows Explorer, I suspect we'll see new folders, including things like scripts, which means I'm on the right path to activating it. I'll do that with this line of code here.
I see you were just creating it. I'm sorry, I thought you were activating it.
I don't know why every time anyone else does these steps, there's always a new barrier and they're never quite the same. I suspect it has something to do with Hiroki's point about Windows versus Mac, but I enjoy the troubleshooting. Now we see that I'm parentheses 7-env. I'm in this virtual environment and I can begin to load libraries as I see fit. What I would like to do is install all of the libraries from my other Python virtual environments. And I can do that simply by copying over the requirements.txt file that's automatically created in those virtual environments.
So the requirements.txt file is a list of all the modules you have installed and their versions. So that's how you can freeze version control, make sure that everyone's using the same versions of the modules.
Amy, who are you following along, or have I had complete and total attrition at this point? It seems like maybe the latter.
So these,
Maybe it's just because of it's not a children's PC.
It shouldn't have to. So children's creates additional obstacles. It doesn't. There's nothing that children's IT facilitates about this process. What is the error message you're receiving?
It says Python was not found. Run without arguments to install from the Microsoft School.
I wonder if yours is not. If you don't have Python added to your path. Are you using a Windows machine?
Yes, I added. I think I need to reboot it because there's a step saying that after you add.
I think that is it.
Yeah.
And it's possible I failed to add that very important step. Thank you. So with the last 2 minutes left, we're going to lose Amy as she reboots. I'm happy to reconnect with any of you individually to make sure you can follow these steps. I'm also going to go through the documentation that Daniel shared because I think some of the problems that I've run into, that Madhuri and then Lauren have run into, may have something to do with the very targeted approach. Daniel, in the last minute, can you again reframe why it might be better to use more flexible directory language? And maybe I'm misunderstanding what you had said about VENV.
Yeah, so basically if you're already inside the environment, so you've created the virtual environment and you're already in that folder, you don't need to keep referencing it from the base path, which just makes it more transferable across your environments, right? So if I'm already there, I can just run activate with the relative path from where I am. And that way I don't need to go in and edit it to be 7 ENV or Dan's ENV each time. It's just, it's the same command each time.
Interesting. Okay. I think I sort of follow, but fortunately I have it recorded so I can listen to Daniel on loop till that makes sense. And I'll send some additional snippets of example code. I want everyone to, in principle, be able to set up these virtual environments. So not necessarily have the same one that I'm setting up, but that we know how to share them and we know how to share requirements the requirements file or share it as a batch file. So we're not getting stupid errors when we try and run each other's code based on version number. We're not going to get there today, but I hope this was at least somewhat helpful for folks to see what the steps are. I've now completed setting up another virtual environment, somewhat redundant on my desktop, and please email me directly if you want to meet on Teams to troubleshoot your own challenges. Daniel, I know we're going to lose you. If anyone else wants to stay connected to see whether we can troubleshoot our way through getting this virtual environment set up on your machine, I'm happy to stay connected now.
Yeah, I can try.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
so
Penny.
with Sophia, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm also gonna stop recording.